because I at least can make good choices sometimes. What matters is the poof. I just want to be the prettiest princess at the Ren Fair. Why is it so hard? Hey there, thanks for stopping by. My name's Emma B, and today I am taking you through the process of making my princess outfit for the Ren Fair. Now, it's not necessarily a princess outfit, but I mean, it's a big poofy dress, multiple skirts, and a tiara bordering on a crown. And I had a girl call me a princess at the Ren Fair, like a little 4-year-old. The highlight of my month, actually. So yeah, it was making a princess outfit. This video is gonna have 2 different parts to it. The first part will be the process of making my outfit and the process that I went through, and also talking about like how I used my outfit from last year to make the outfit for this year, because some of it looks similar to the year before, and I'll explain why in the first section. And then the second section will be more of a vlog style video of getting ready for the Ren Fair and then going to the actual event. Now, the part that is the most fun, at least for me, because I'm a huge corset nerd, is the stays that I made. Now, stays and corsets look super similar. The most common divider between the two, as much of the historical terminology, are ones that go on top of your clothes, and a corset is typically the one that's underneath your clothes. I didn't want to spend forever and a half making a great corset for myself and then not have anyone see it. Now, I'm going to put it right here, a picture of my Ren Fair outfit from last year, and the corset was purple. The stays, wow, making my own terminology straight. My stays last year, I got a pattern from Etsy for like $6 and just made them as the pattern recommended. And I used this purple like muslin, in between muslin and like a true canvas. So thicker material, but the actual like weave of the fabric, so the weft and the warp wasn't tight enough. There weren't enough threads to be a tight enough weave for a corset. And I learned it the hard way when I had a bunch of the boning break through while I was at the Ren Fair, and then I had to remove them and loosen up the stays, and so that it didn't act as supportive as a bra. Corsets and stays were like the equivalent of a bra in the historical times, but oftentimes they were more comfortable than our modern bra because they were made custom for an individual at the time that they're wearing it, basically. So learning from last year, one thing that I did differently is I picked better fabric, and a couple different kinds of fabric layered together. The outside layer on both sides were pillowcases that I thrifted from Goodwill, and the floral fabric was way too thin of a fabric in general, and then also was too loose of a weave. So I added interfacing to the back, also flatlined it, which just means cut out another piece of fabric and sewed them as one, with a green canvas fabric that my friend had lying around, and they let me use it, so shout out to them. Like the innermost layer, so the closest part to my skin, was a pillowcase as well. So a much tighter woven pillowcase material. I don't know how many times I can describe it. It was better for a corset. And I also got batting, just like this like fluffy cotton bungee fabric. A lot of people use it for quilting, and I got it secondhand from a sewing studio makerspace area, which is local to St. Louis. So if you're in the St. Louis area, I'll link them below. They're a really great company, and all of the who work there are super nice, and they sell secondhand like sewing and quilting supplies for super cheap, and so I got it from there. I also adjusted the pattern a little bit from last year, so based on how the corset fit me last year, I took it in the waist, as well as shortening the length of the corset. I have a really short torso. For being as tall as I am, my hip bones just go up really high, and so if you're designing the corset to just go into the waist, but the waist stops up here and it keeps going in, it tends to dig into your hip bones, and so it wasn't super comfortable. And so instead of altering it so that it went back out again, I decided to shorten it to my actual waistline because I liked the look of it cutting off there, because then you really get to experience the giant skirt moment a little bit more. So I sewed the boning channels into every layer of fabric except for the very front one, because it's such a wiggly fabric. Didn't want that to leave weird creasing on the outside of the stays, and I thought it just created a cleaner look to the garment overall. I tried to save as much of the boning from last year that I could, but I think I lost a couple pieces along the way from moving out of my last dorm home and then back into my dorm this semester. But fortunately, my friend, who's also a fashion design major and went to the Ren Fair with me, had some extra boning. They let me use it. It was a little bit different than the boning that I had, which is plastic, and this was like a woven boning. So I ended up like double layering it up for the channels that had that boning in it, but it created a similar amount of structure. Also, something I learned from last year, that you can't just cut the boning and then like leave the corners sharp.
With the amount of corsets I made, you think I would have learned for my own corset not to do that?
Turns out I hadn't, and so that's definitely part of why bones started breaking through the fabric. But I rounded the corners of my boning because I at least can make good choices sometimes, because I've done a lot of repairs on rehearsal corsets for the theater department, and I've also gotten to make a couple custom corsets for shows. Something that I've learned is that it's better for the boning to be short rather than long. If it's a little bit too long, it's going to force the boning either up or down out of the corset, and then you're going to have it rip and stab your actor or yourself if you're making it for yourself. So I was also extra careful to make sure I was cutting the boning a little bit shorter so it has a little room to move around. Then I used secondhand bias tape. Bias tape is so super helpful with corsets, especially if you don't give yourself enough seam allowance to finish it off well, and especially for corsets and stays when they have those, when they're with a lot thicker fabric. Binding is a way to finish it off without having to actually hem it. I much prefer doing binding because you can do it on the machine, and it also gives a nice cleanest finish. As once you've figured out how to do binding, it's pretty easy to keep it mostly consistent. Now you'll notice on some of the super curved areas I sewed the binding on backwards, and so it's a little bit wrinkly on the outside, but I made the executive decision as the designer and also the client that it didn't really matter because I was tired and I wanted to be done. And yet, after finished binding, we're not done. The next step is grommets. Now, I really love grommets. I love how they look. I love the function of them. I love that they are often very durable and you can use them on a lot of different garments. What I don't love is having to hammer them in. I just find it annoying. It makes my hands sore. It's loud. So it's inconvenient for everybody in the general vicinity. But I hammered my grommets. I mean, I think they turned out pretty good. I also discovered a trick while working on this corset in particular, which is a Phillips head screwdriver. Flathead. Using a flathead screwdriver, once I get a small hole poked through all of the layers, I can stick the screwdriver in and twist it around to make sure that it's wide enough to be able to fit the grommet pieces on, to then hammer them into like encasing the hole in the fabric. The very final step is doing my ribbon finishings. Obviously the front is where I put my grommets, and so that's where it's going to tie up. So the ribbon needs to be able to move in and out, but I did melt the ends of the ribbon so that they don't start to fray because it's a polyester ribbon, and I did that on purpose. Polyester is plastic. It's a fabric made of plastic, or in this case a satin ribbon made of plastic. But plastic under enough heat melt. I just used a lighter to melt the ends of the ribbon, and so that way I don't have to worry about it fraying. If you're not careful, you can light the ribbon on fire.
Oopsies.
So like, I'm gonna recommend that you don't try this at home because I don't want to be responsible for anyone burning down their house. Crazy, I know. The two grommets on the strap and then on the front of the stays, I used a little loop of ribbon and sewed them together so that way it just stays. I don't have to worry about tying it or coming loose. And then I cut it super close to the stitches that I did to hold the ribbon together and then melted it there. If I ever need to adjust it or my weight fluctuates and I need to adjust where the strap sits, I can always cut the ribbon and add new ribbon, or I can add an elastic loop and do the same technique and just not melt it, which is what we do a lot in theater, especially if you're not going to see the corset. If it's a corset underneath the cloak, we often do an elastic loop right there because then there's just more room for the actor to be able to move their shoulders, and it tends to be more comfortable for modern clothes wearers because we're just not used to the structure of historical garments. We're not even used to the structure of a good suit jacket anymore, which I would love to do a video at some point talking about how we don't make clothes well anymore, and it literally starts with the fabric itself. But that's another thing. We don't have to do today. And then my stays were done being made by me. I did that. I finished it. I already had a fun lace sleeve white shirt that has a huge stain on part of the body, and so I'm using that, and I'm going to put the stays on top of it, and so it's my Ren Faire shirt now because you can't see the stain. For the bottom half of my body, the base layer is a petticoat. Now, I would have loved to make my petticoat from scratch because I think that'd be a really fun project, and it's something I would like to be able to do well. I ran out of time, so I ordered a petticoat from Amazon, and as you can see from this original clip, it's not quite the right size. The straight size petticoat was $20, and the plus size one was $30, and I'm a fashion design major and seamstress, so I saved myself $10. I left the closure of the petticoat alone. I didn't really want to touch it. I wanted it to be a super easy alteration because, again, nobody can see it. Fine if it's ugly. I cut down the back. I serged so that it didn't start fraying.
I just want to know. I actually think I'm a genius. Mom, look, I'm a genius.
And added a elastic strap at the waistband to extend it pretty significantly. And then I went back and fixed the elastic that I sewed, twisted it so that it was not twisted but looked basically the same.
Alright, I'm gonna put it on my body. I didn't bring a tripod because that feels obnoxious to bring in the sewing studio and I didn't know who's gonna be working in here. My petticoat now fits as long as I have the front up and the back looks bad, but no one's gonna see it anyway, so it's fine. What matters is This skirt I made to be like a lot of other Ren Faire skirts I've seen, to not have modern closures. Currently you can't even see the front of the skirt because it's all the way down here. The back is pleated and ties in the front, and then the front is also pleated in the same way and ties in the back, and there's just an opening on either side. And I've seen a lot of them add pockets. I think if this was the top layer of my skirt this year, I would add pockets because I would have time for it. But with the overskirt, I think I'm going to do what I did last year and bring a little picnic blasket, a picnic blasket, a tisket, a tasket, a picnic blasket.
But I needed to alter the hem because the hem wasn't even correct last year without the petticoat underneath, let alone with the petticoat. And then for the final piece that I really feel like elevated my look was the overskirt that I had, which is actually sitting right here. Most of my Ren Faire stuff I've now shoved up on a shelf up in my closet, but this one is so pretty, I just like having it down. And also, I spent so long steaming it after doing the alterations that I don't want to ball it up quite yet. The skirt was originally from a early 1980s prom dress that I got for free that had, I think, like a 26-inch waist, and I originally altered it to be just a skirt, and it has an elastic waistband with a zipper and hook and eye closure, and it fits me, someone who's not 26-inch waist, clearly. And I used it to go swing dancing once with some friends, which was super cool. And then I used it again at Pride this summer, but I really wasn't getting that much use out of it. So I wanted to take the opportunity to give it a real purpose in my closet rather than just sitting there. And so I took the front ruffle right at the center front and I pulled it up and sewed it so that it had an upside down V in the front. And then went in and cut the lining way shorter than the actual skirt.
Yeah, good enough.
And then in terms of other clothing, all I was wearing was a pair of biker shorts and then the same boots that I wore the year before, which is just a pair of brown boots with a little bit of like a faux fur detail on them that I just had in my closet. It was so cool to be able to put together an outfit made of almost entirely secondhand or I already own pieces and materials. I love when I'm able to reuse items that I already have. My wallet loves it too, but I also just think it's a great way to make sure that we keep items in circulation and still get to have fun with our clothes at the same time. For y'all today, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Toodles!
Whatever. I do what I want.
Again, nobody can see it. Fine if it's ugly.
I love the sneakers with it too, that really is.
Who says I can't wear my Converse with my dress?
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
I do work in this building.